Last time we covered and examined the very best RPGs for the SNES. Now, let's move to glorious 3 dimensions. With number 5, The Legend of Dragoon. The city is dead, your friends are dead, family is dead, everything is dead. Well, except for Dart's indomitable warrior spirit, oh yeah. Our quest begins by looking for some tramp who found herself in prison. Along the way, we meet stereotypical male hero dude bro Lance man. He's lame, she's lame, Dart's lame. The writing in this game is cringeworthingly awful. Even though the story sucks, the gameplay doesn't have to. Although it is fairly standard world exploration and combat. The combat in particular has the system of press the confirmation button at just the right time for additional damage. These techs, or additions or whatever they call it, can be collected and upgraded for better effects. It's neat, but it's kinda shoddily implemented since it's difficult to tell when to press, and for a good portion of the game, just completely useless. So here's an anecdote, right? So there's these warden mobs that each have 10 HP. Each attack from a character does 5 or 7 when timed correctly. It's a small complaint in the grand scheme of things, but it just screams bad game design, and stuff like that pops up all over the place. They should have had 7 HP. That way normal attacks still take 2 turns, but augmented attacks will kill you in 1. You know, to reward the player for skillful play or whatever. I'm no game designer, what do I know? The Legend of Dragoon is a weird one. The game in general showcases mediocrity, but it just has that X factor that kept me going. It's really hard to pin down what it is. For example, even though the writing seems to have been written by a 3rd grader, I picked up on the core idea that these characters are real and more than just one dimension. Specific MMO impact as active in cinematic battles. Number 4, Suikoden 2. Betrayal, intrigue, adventure. Suikoden takes the player on an epic quest with the humble beginnings of something no one should ever have to experience. Being stabbed in the back by one's own countrymen. Luckily, we have the plucky, lanky sidekick to help us out by throwing us off a cliff. Some friend. Nonetheless, we survive, which lands us right into the enemy's hands again, but not the kind of enemy that wants to kill us, which is good. Just, you know, the kind that makes its prisoners do menial slave labor for scraps. After the prison break, the game really begins and opens up to a shockingly dense world. Conquer the world with literally over 100 characters which can join the player's personal army. And these aren't just like recolors and copy and paste nobodies either. Each one comes with unique sprites, story, and particular advantages. That alone is simply incredible, and maybe a little bit overkill. Otherwise, the story and general progression isn't too far-fetched outside of a strange rock, paper, scissors dueling mode and the Fire Emblem-esque segments, which is way out of place. However, in combat is the notable highlight. Beautifully drawn pixel art and animation brings these sequences to life. Granted, most of the time it's just a mini-movie played on auto battle, but still, incredibly well done. The MMO Origins impact of Suikoden is admittedly quite low, but don't get me wrong, it's still a good game. The impact lies in the world building. Every non-playable character and playable character has something relevant to say. This, along with the fabulous theming, leads to an overall supremely satisfying narrative. Number 3, Vagrant Story. As soon as the opening cutscene, this apron-wearing warrior kills a dragon and shoots a naked dude with overgrown fingernails. Gross. What a start to such an unusual game. Not a whole lot else happens story-wise, at least nothing I want to spoil here. Needs to know information. The player has been framed for murder and is on the run indefinitely while trying to clear his name, yada 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 yada. The gameplay is where Vagrant Story really shines. I would actually closely equate this game to Dark Souls. At least, parts certainly felt that way. Explore these boxed off areas, platforming, solving puzzles, and of course, killing fools. Killing fools is actually a bit different than expected. Instead of regular slashing, who wants to just slash people? The player is able to pause time and target specific body parts. Going hand in hand with this is how enemies are affected by certain weaponry. In other words, particular foes require particular attacks to damage effectively. This game is weird, no doubt. The graphics are awful, but somehow amazing. The combat is dull, but somehow cool. And the story is nonsensical, but still somehow memorable. My lasting impression of this game is how combat ebb and flows throughout the game. One cannot just use the same tactic from beginning to end. Changes must be made to progress. Additionally, the attention to detail across the entire project showcases how you can rise above technical limitations with creativity. Number 2, Final Fantasy Tactics. Quite possibly the very best tactical RPG game ever released, albeit I'm more of a fan of the GBA equivalent. The stage is set on the main character being an incredibly influential force through a series of unfortunate events. However, he doesn't even get credit at the end. Who does? That scumbag peasant Delita. Kidding aside, the story is incredibly dense, mature, and exceptionally well written. Jump into the action with this mercenary group effectively on the run from everything, but at the same time killing everything in its path. Position and attack enemies strategically as each character can only withstand a few attacks. Coordinate assaults with a plethora of characters, abilities, and job types. After each hard-fought battle, equip the squad with only the very best gear going to the next battle. This is absolutely necessary as each skirmish is terrifyingly difficult. Besides having a phenomenal story, there's very little overall impact. In fact, this genre as a whole is suffering these days. Even the natural progression to the XCOM format isn't doing well. Oh well. Still an amazing game, easily one of the best on the PS1 and in general. Number 1, Final Fantasy VII. Oi, there's already a Final Fantasy title on this list. Dislike, unsubscribe. Chill, man. It's technically a different series, and technically correct is the best kind of correct. Anyway, Final Fantasy VII. One of the best games ever made. The player, Cloud, is essentially a sword for hire whom runs into the anti-establishment anarchy terrorist unit Avalanche. This group goes on to raise havoc and blow shit up. Aside from the preachy environmental message, a meteor or whatever is going to kill everything because some hippie trenchcoat wearing weebo is having mommy issues or something. It's a goofy narrative with silly sequences, but not without the heavy hitting ones. Initially, fairly standard battle mechanics. Wait for the meter to fill up, then attack. Sometimes use magic or super move or whatever. What's amazing is the camera work and the particle effects contained therein. Each battle feels alive and actively engaging. Then, throw in the high amount of unique characters and the vast materia system, and you have something truly great. However, what to even take away? Spectacularly engaging battles with dazzling effects, gorgeous cinematography, and an unprecedented item system that immensely spices up an otherwise dull turn-based RPG. Also, it really helps that this game helped or lead the way, or fund, whatever you want to call it, to one of the best MMORPGs ever made, Final Fantasy XI and 14, of course.